All right, Let It Be is the 12th and final studio album and piece of crap forced on us by corporate bastards that we must all inhale. By the English rock band The Beatles. It was released on 8th of May 1970, almost a month after the group's breakup, in tandem with the motion picture of the same name. Rehearsals began at Twickenham Film Studios in January 1969 as part of a planned documentary showing the Beatles' return to live performance. The film rehearsals were marked by ill feeling, leading to George Harrison's temporary departure from the group. Let It Be was ultimately assembled under American producer Phil Spector in the early 1970s. 1970, really. So Spector applied orchestral and choir overdubs to 4 tracks, and these additions offended McCartney. The album topped record charts in many countries. However, the critical response was generally unfavorable. Brad, did you watch the Get Back Peter Jackson doco extravaganza?
I did, and it went something like, "Hey, John, where's George gone? Oh, George has done fucked off there, Paul." That's essentially what it was. It was good times. That was my awesome Beatles accent. Can you tell I'm accent master?
No, that didn't come through at all. Did you watch all 3 episodes?
I did, and being a pretty mad. Do you call yourself a Beatle maniac? Is that a thing? I enjoyed it, but it was long. Like if you're a casual Beatles fan, Get Back is not for you. It's like 9 hours of watching 4 guys be pretty crap and write songs and bicker amongst themselves and then pull it together for a 20-minute rooftop concert. That's what Let It Be is.
I heard people saying that they're much happier than they thought, what they were led to believe.
There's definitely some joy there, don't get me wrong, but you can see that none of them really want to be there and it's been forced upon them. And like you said, George leaves because he's just over it, because when you watch it, it's just painfully crap. Like you look at it and go, oh yeah, the Beatles, mate, the greatest band of all time. Yeah. And the first 3 hours is them sitting in a room going, oh, I've got a bit of a song. Let's play that 5 million times. And Ringo, can tell he just wants to smash his head against the wall. Well, then again, he's probably just happy to be there because he's Ringo, right?
So they came in with no material. They were all supposed to write the album in 3 weeks, was it?
Yeah. They were meant to write and not record, but rehearse the songs and then perform 12 to 14 songs, learn them all, rehearse them all, and then play them live in a live concert and record the concert. And that was meant to be the album. And it just never happened. The enthusiasm wasn't there. Paul was just forcing everybody to make music. And it's a fascinating watch in that, the description of it, even the original Let It Be, was this is a documentary of a band breaking up. Not so much when you watch this version of it, it's watching a band who's just kind of tired of what they're doing and maybe needed a bit more direction, they'd lost their manager. They were just over it, Paul had found Linda and John had found Yoko.
What happened to the manager? Where'd he go?
Drugs overdose.
Oh, really? Was he the gay one?
Yeah, Epstein. So that was just after Sergeant Pepper. So he died. They all went, oh, what are we going to do, John? Or let's go to India then, mate. Let's get spiritual. And they went to the Maharishi thing and they wrote the White Album. And then after the White Album, I guess they had Hey Jude. And then it was like, right, what's next? Okay, we've got we're contracted to do one more movie. So they thought, all right, we'll just do it with a live show and we'll sell the movie of the live show. And that's what it was.
So George Martin's their long-term producer. He's done every other album. He wasn't
Mhm.
producing either. He
He
was
was there.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was not the
So
producer on it.
what's the quote? Produced by
Produced by
um,
George Martin, overproduced by
overproduced
Phil
by.
Spector.
That's it. And I think that's a fair comment, at least on those 4 songs. Like when I think of this album, it was interesting for me.
Hang on, where did he go? That's the question.
Who are we talking about?
George Martin. Why didn't he
He was
produce it?
just
Why didn't he stick around?
because it was a piece of dog shit that they never finished and they dropped it. And then Phil Spector picked it up later on to polish the turd to put it out because they needed another album.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's one of the things. Like when you listen to the album, I've heard the BBC live sessions of the Beatles, and their playing is super tight.
Yeah.
And then this Let It Be, the actual album, we're just listening to the rehearsals, and it's like they're sort of still learning the songs, and it's pretty rough and all over the place. And Phil Spector was
Yeah.
trimming the songs down in the edit, like cutting parts out and tightening the songs up because the song arrangement was a bit loose. And
yeah, honestly, like I said, and when you watch that doco, they're just sitting around and like Paul's going, this is my song, Let It Be. And they play it over and over and over and over and over again. And even watching the doco, you're like, please don't play Let It Be again. Can you just stop and play something else? So imagine being in the band, or when, even when we play songs, we had to play the same song over and over again for 3 hours. You'd just be like, fuck this. I want to get me out of here.
yeah, that's what the big bands do, though. Like something like Metallica play a 2-hour concert. They've spent
There it
3 hours
Ding, 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 ding,
earlier in
ding.
the evening rehearsing before they go on stage. They do a 3-hour warm up where they go through everything. And I've been reading about a lot of bands. They have a 9 to 5 work ethic. When they're not touring, it's 9 to 5 writing songs. They come in at 9 in the morning with their lunch pail. They're like writing and recording and rehearsing for months before they get to making an album.
Yeah.
And know it inside out, make the album, cut and run.
Yeah. And that's what, John said about Let It Be. He was just like, we are, we're almost too good for this style of making music. They were used to going in and creating, well, essentially masterpieces, Sergeant Pepper and Revolver and all the rest of it. They're all classic albums, studio masterpieces. And then they stop performing live. And then Paul comes in and says, right, we're doing a live album. It was only him that really wanted to do it. Like George didn't want to play live again, neither did John. And they were just like, okay, this is what we do. And it was literally that. They went into a massive film studio at Twickenham and they did 9 to 5 and they had their tea and toast and all that sort of stuff, very British.
And they
just
weren't using proper studio mics. They were using television presenter microphones.
Yeah.
Because the stems were thinner, so they would look good on film. They wouldn't be in the way of the camera.
Well, they did that initially, and then I think they had like 4 songs when they rehearsed there, and then they moved back into EMI Studios or Abbey Road or whatever you want to call it. And that's when you can see in the footage, that's when they've got the better mics. And shut up, Dan. Let me finish. And then they had all the better mics, and and that's where most of the album versions were taken from. I don't think anything came from the initial sessions at Twickenham.
What, the Let It Be album? Nothing from there makes it onto the actual Let It Be album. It's the Apple Studio stuff.
Yeah, nothing from the early studio. I don't think there might be 1 or 2 little jams or something, but no, most of it's from there. And then there's a couple from the actual rooftop concert, which is pretty badass. But yeah, when I listened to Let It Be, when it came up for this, I very rarely listened to the original release. I listened to the Let It Be Naked that came out, I don't know, 2000 something, where they remixed it and stripped out all the orchestra and made it all real. It's just like a straightforward recording. And it sounds great. I love it. It's got better versions of the songs. It all sounds crisp and clear, compared to like Let It Be is kind of sludgy, and there's all those. I mean, really, there's 5 actual songs, and then it's a bunch of filler. Like Dig It and geez, what else is in there? All these just little short. Even I'm in Mine is a pretty brief thing. Got edited by Phil Spector into a 3-minute song. They didn't have anything. Paul came in, had his Let It Be, his Long and Winding Road, what he considered would be the hits. And then it was just sort of jams for the rest of it.
Yeah, sort of like Get Back, Long and Winding Road, Let It Be. I like The Two of Us, and Across the Universe is good, but it's the worst recording there. That's a bad demo stitched together from a couple of bad demos put together.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. This is shoved down our throats by the corporate overlords. It was abandoned by the Beatles.
Yeah,
and the record company packaged it up and sold the crap, and it sounds like no one was really that happy about it.
They'd come off the White Album. They had this film contract, so they spent the money to film this film and recorded the music. So money was spent, and then they shelved it. They went, nah, that's the worst piece of crappily recorded crap. I think I'm paraphrasing, but that's a Lennon quote. And just left it. And then they came back in and did Abbey Road, which is a bona fide Beatles classic, right? Abbey Road's genius. And then broke up, went their separate ways, right? And then it was after, the Beatles are done, where they were like, shit, we spent all this money. We may as well put something out. So that's when it got all cobbled together and Phil Spector was brought in by John Lennon, I think, to do it, to make something out of it. And, we got what we got. Most people think it was the last recorded album, but no, it was essentially a failed project that then got polished up.
Yeah. From what I understand, Paul McCartney complained quite a bit about Phil Spector, but Ringo Starr, George Harrison, and John Lennon all went on and made albums with Phil Spector in their solo careers.
Yeah.
And he was a guy who was just brought in to polish the turd, like you say. So he, I don't know, I think it's a bit rude of George Martin to say overproduced by Phil Spector. I mean, he was doing what he could, and it still doesn't sound overproduced. Like it still sounds rough.
I mean, but the thing is, you listen to it now, and like any Beatles song, it's just part of it's part of your subconscious. You know what those songs sound like, So to go away and like for me to listen to the naked version, it makes it all fresh, and it just sounds a bit. It sounds like there's more intention there, even if it was sort of a half-hearted effort. And what pisses me off is that the best song from the sessions wasn't even on the album. Don't Let Me Down is a genius song. And it was on the single. It was the B-side of Get Back, and it never made it on the album. It was just dumb. And when you watch this Get Back, Peter Jackson's magnum opus of 9 hours, that's one of the songs they work on the most. And it's not even on the album. Idiots. What do the Beatles know?
Wow. Yeah, it's just. Was it really just? Was it Epstein? Was it Epstein the name of the manager?
Yeah, Brian Epstein.
All right, so another Epstein, unfortunately, gone too soon.
Yeah. Are you drinking in my ear? Is that what you're doing? Is that you drinking V's?
No.
Oh, sounds like you're drinking. Oh well, must just be the Wi-Fi. Continue.
Well, you're hearing it now.
No, it was just before you talked. It's a nice slappy. I thought you were just drinking some V. No, I'm an easily irritated man. You know this.
So Epstein. So was it Epstein's death that spiraled them out of control here? Like put
Oh,
them into
for
despair?
sure. It's an obvious turning point in their career where they were just going up, 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 up. Sergeant Pepper's, and what happened is Epstein, I don't know how you say it. He basically ran out of things to do because as their manager, he was the man. He was getting Beatles shows. He was on the phone, he was the wheeler dealer. And then when they stopped performing live, he found he didn't have much to do. He's bored, got into the drug scene, the gay scene, whatever. Ended up, overdosing on whatever and carking it. But then, the Beatles, he was essentially their their guiding light, who was, he was the one behind the drive to get them to do stuff. He was the one that said, you guys need to wear suits in the early days and tidy up, and got them, Ed Sullivan show, everything. They do Sergeant Pepper, and he dies pretty soon afterwards, I think, maybe a week or 2 weeks after. Somebody can fact check us, write in, send us an email, complain. And then they did, like I said, no, it wasn't the White Album first. It was the Magical Mystery Tour. Paul was like, hey, we're getting on a bus. We're going to make a film. Piece of shit. Only redeeming factor is I Am the Walrus. Great song. And then White Album. Then the failed Get Back project. Abbey Road. Done. Yeah. And they talk about it in the documentary. They're just like, there's no one giving us direction anymore. They just sit there and argue about things.
So I understand only the 3 songs on the album are full live takes. And what's his name? Phil Spector, he edited Dig a Pony Down and make it tighter and better. And he edited I Me Mine and added an extra chorus. So he's Pro Tools cut and pasting the song around before there was Pro Tools.
Yep, he's doing it with tape.
He also added a lot of the impromptu overdubs of the Beatles talking during the songs is from outtakes that he just sort of copied and pasted on top to make it sound like they were being witty while they were playing the songs.
That's it. But it was, a lot of that stuff too was John Lennon was there during that editing process and essentially taking the piss out of Paul McCartney. Right before Let It Be plays, John's like, and now we'd like to play Hark, Hear the Angels Come. It's just taking the piss. It's great. He's being a cunt. That's what he's being.
Yeah. It was, I saw some footage and it was really sad seeing Paul and Linda McCartney together. Seemed like a lovely couple. Very nice together. I remember my mum and dad were always really, really sad when Linda McCartney passed away because they all loved her. They thought she was really cool.
Lovely.
And Paul's the nice one.
Look, I don't know if you'll ever get a chance to watch it. I'm sure you'll get Disney Plus at some point, but it's
never cancel Disney Plus, scumbags.
Corporate overlords.
Free Gina Carano.
How are you going to watch The Mandalorian?
I'm not. Screw them.
Oh, shame. Missing out.
I'm done. Look, after what they did to Star Wars,
what did they do?
How can you? How do you feed them your money every month after what they've done?
Star Wars is fine. They had to make their mistakes to make The Mandalorian. Everything happens for a reason.
Nonsense. Filthy people.
Yeah. That's all right. They hate sand. I've forgotten my point now.
They're sand lovers.
This is just the usual. What was it talking about? So there's like plenty of scenes of the Beatles sort of talking about this situation and George wanting to leave and then Ringo wanting to leave or whatever. But there's a scene in there where it's like the camera's just on Paul McCartney and George is left and the band is essentially there. Like they've said they're broken up and they're going to try and get Eric Clapton in to take George's place or whatever. And you can see it's just they hold it on McCartney. And I guess this is Peter Jackson's editing prowess. I don't know. But you can just see the weight of McCartney going, his eyes are welling up in the middle of this conversation. It's kind of like, fuck, my whole life was the Beatles and now it's toast. What do I do next kind of thing? It's real. It's a pretty hard watch.
Yeah, I might have this wrong, but I remember seeing Paul McCartney had depression for a couple of years after the Beatles. He just
Yeah, I
lived on
believe
a
it.
farm
Yeah.
and had trouble getting out of bed and things.
No, and it's your whole life, man. From when he was like, what, 15, writing songs with John Lennon, and then, sort of disappears. Be pretty heavy.
Mm. Is there any shocking new information from Let It Be? Is there anything really new come out of it, or?
No, I mean, just little anecdotes of more like things you've read about a lot and conversations you've read about and different versions of it to actually see those conversations, and just go, oh, that's how it actually happened. Makes more sense. Or it's a slight tweak on the myth, if that makes sense. But it's really cool, like just to see the best described as literally a fly on the wall documentary of these four guys trying to make an album, and it's pretty cool, and like the way they've redone the footage, and it looks like it was filmed yesterday. It's pretty sweet. It's a time capsule, is the term. But the
Yeah,
album itself, I guess that's what we're here to talk about. Where do you rate it in the Beatles? In the Beatles catalog, where would you put Let It Be?
yeah, I wouldn't have a clue. I don't know if I've listened to all the albums, or if I have, I haven't. It was a long time ago.
But I mean, would you consider it has classic Beatles songs on it?
I think Get Back, Get Back, Let It Be, and Across the Universe for me would be the classics.
All right, yeah, I mean, Get Back is good. Let It Be, I reckon, is a classic, but it's hard to listen to over and over again. It just seems to get more boring with every listen. You know what I mean?
Get Back's definitely the standout. It's sort of like The Long and Winding Road, the song that they argue so much about. Oh, they added strings on. Like, it's not really. It's not my favorite song. It's like
no, it's just another sort of boring McCartney love song. I get that it's, if you're in the right mood, that is the song that's going to pierce your heart, But if you're just having a normal day, God, it's boring.
Mouth of Cancer.
That's later. Yeah. What's the
We
other?
had to sing those McCartney songs in school. And God, they were boring.
Did you? And he was making money off the school, probably. He gets royalties.
Yeah.
Dig a Pony is a song that I both love sometimes and find a hard listen other times. It's quite an odd song, odd time signatures and little changes. But it's a good one. I don't know if I'd call it classic Beatles, but it's a good one.
Phil Spector. He's an
Did he kill somebody?
Cat. Yeah. So he kept an actress in his house for 2 years under the threat of gunpoint and finally shot her. And she died.
Did he shoot her? Did he kill her?
Killed her.
Oh.
Killed her dead.
Did he go to prison?
He went to prison. I think he died in prison, or he got out and died. But yeah,
he seems like the kind of guy that'd like marry his cousin or something.
Yeah, well, it depends on your cousin. Some pretty good-looking cousins out there, Brad. Have you seen those cousins running around?
So many cousins.
Yeah. And it was. I saw an interview with the Ramones, and they hired Phil Spector because. They loved his records growing up, and they said he didn't really work in the punk rock setting because he was too slow and meticulous. But one of the Ramones said he got invited over to Phil Spector's house, and Phil held him at gunpoint for 2 days before the guy finally escaped and got out of there. So yeah,
the moral of the story is don't hire Phil Spector for your job.
Bring an overnight vag if you ever visit.
If you're visiting, and just get used to the taste of gunmetal.
Yeah. I mean, it's your own fault at this point if you get. Yeah. So any filler tracks? What would you cut out?
Oh, mate, there's all filler tracks. I think of the album, there's only really sort of 4 or 5 actual songs, and then like Across the Universe is a demo. Dig It's not even a song. Like it could have just been a little EP. The Get Back EP, and then get out of it. The Get Back, get out of it.
Mm, yeah. So you're throwing out half the album.
Essentially, yeah. I think just put it on like they could have just made either a little EP or a couple of single releases. Do Let It Be and Long and Winding Road as the B side, and then do Get Back and Don't Let Me Down, and then the rest, probably just put it on some rarities Beatles album after they broke up or something. But I mean, in saying that, people think Let It Be is an absolute classic album. Some people it's their favorite Beatles. It's not for me. For some people it is. I mean, if I had to pick a favorite Beatles album, that's a hard call because I'm a big Beatles fan. But I'd be thinking, Abbey Road, maybe the White Album, or the Help soundtrack is surprisingly good. But Let It Be, now I'd put that. That's lower tier Beatles for me. Some quality. The songwriting's great. Like Let It Be, Get Back, Don't Let Me Down. Not that's on the album, but it's the B side. Are great songs for what they are, but compared to the Beatles, the Beatles, it's not their best work.
Yeah.
And like I always like to think, it's refreshing to think like the Beatles had their 10-year thing. That was their time, and they broke up. But you think 1969, 1970 was when they were finishing up. That was Let It Be phase and Abbey Road. And you think, oh, yeah, this is great music. But then I always think about the other stuff that was coming out at the time. There was the Doors, there was Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, all that stuff was happening in 69. And that was far and away more rock and roll and progressive than the Beatles were getting anywhere near at the time. So I think maybe their time was up.
Yeah, when I was listening to this, I was thinking, like in the first half of the album, I really felt like this sounded like the Grateful Dead. It's that rocky, bluesy, ragtimey, jazzy kind of
badly recorded-y. Yeah,
that was happening at the time. Yeah, and then it felt like it had its Bob Dylan moments when there's something where one of those little segue songs with John Lennon's yelling something out and over the top, and it sounds like Bob Dylan, one of his little raps he would do.
Yeah.
It felt derivative. It didn't feel like the Beatles. And like when you listen to Sgt. Pepper's, that's an
it's
incredible
groundbreaking,
album.
right? There was nothing else like it at the time. It's pushing the envelope, and then the envelope at some point in the Beatles' career, maybe when it was Epstein died, the envelope got sent away in the post to somebody else, and they picked it up and went, "We're away with it." Whether it was your Led Zeppelins or whoever was big, early 70s, maybe even the Stones. The Rolling Stones got bigger than the Beatles in the 70s. Like they hit their stride then. They got out of the shadow, maybe. Don't know.
Yeah, they just weren't feeling it, and it's crap, and they abandoned it, and then the record companies shoved it in the trough and made us pay full price for it.
Num, 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 and we all ate it up. Yep. How would you rate this album? How many tickety boos and cat's meows are you giving this there, Daniel?
I'm going to give it a 5 cat's meows out of 10.
Yeah. You know what? I think the first time in our recorded history, I'm going to agree with you and give it the exact same score.
Our pussies are aligned. Our pussies are aligned.
We are scissoring. We are scissoring hard. Though, in saying that, if they'd actually put "Don't Let Me Down" on the album, I'd be in the 7th. It's worth another 2 points, maybe more, because that song is a banger.
Well, Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
You didn't even know
But
the song I'm talking about. It's all right.
yeah, I know the song, but coulda, woulda, shoulda. And yeah,
Well, they did.
That said, I there's nothing really like bad. There's just nothing. There's just not a lot
No.
of great. There's some great,
No.
but there's not a. Yeah.
No, I think that's right. Like the Beatles are great. They are the Beatles, and let it be. Just it doesn't have the magic. I guess that's what's missing.
Yeah.
The,
I don't
the
know why
little
they wanted to strip back and go back to their roots when they were doing so well with huge and layered and dense and clever and magical, and they went
bro.
back to
It was just laziness, and they fucking hated each other. Like
yeah.
just make it simple so we can get it done and go the fuck home. Oh, fuck off, Paul. I want to go and bag Yoko. Go and sit in a bag and talk about peace. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I won't have a nasty word said about Yoko, possibly the most attractive woman that ever walked the earth, and a thoughtful philosopher and a poet and just a gentle soul. And
And the
I
voice
think
of an
it's
angel.
the singing voice of an angel. Like,
Just
don't go
good.
school. Have you heard that song?
I've heard parts of many Yoko songs. Yeah.
Don't go
And
the passion.
this podcast brought to you by drowningcats.com.
I think we're spent. We're done.
All right. I think we're spent. Go and check it out. Good times.